Baskerville Hall, looming large and grey and forbidding behind me. Apparently, the inspiration for Conan Doyle to write that story that you don't need me to tell you the name of. At the request of the owners, he changed the location to Dartmoor, but we're nowhere near Dartmoor. We're practically in Wales, old thing. In Cliro, it's also known as Cliro Court. A mile and a half down the road from Hay-on-Wye, with its bibliophilic literary associations. So, to get the ball rolling, thinking in literary terms, which would you be, Harris? Holmes or Watson, and why?
I think I'm more of a Mrs. Hudson myself.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And the Una Stubbs interpretation.
Yes, why not?
Yeah, why not? An excellent interpretation that it is. I'm going for Holmes, of course, in my monumental and overweening hubris, particularly the Jeremy Brett version, I think, which is not only superlative, but I also identify with the way that when he's younger, he's thin and his hair is brushed back, and when he's older, it's brushed forward and he's a bit fat.
If I was Watson, I'd possibly go for the Ian Hart interpretation.
I've not seen that version. Isn't Rupert Everett in that version?
Well, the BBC made a version of Hound of the Baskervilles with Ian Hart as Watson and Richard Roxburgh as Holmes, as kind of a Christmas special.
Yeah.
The following year, for some reason, they got rid of Richard Roxburgh. I know why not.
Okay.
And replaced him with Rupert Everett.
As good a Christmas gift as anyone could wish for.
Yeah, and that's roughly what I was thinking myself at the time.
I thought so.
Here, Cummins.
Yeah.
If that came at you on the moors,
Or luminous.
Yeah. How scared do you think you'd be?
I wouldn't like to say for fear of hurting its canine feelings, but moving swiftly on, there is a hound of a different sort, a crocodile of the Baskervilles carved down there. I don't really know what the explanation for that is.
It's in the book, isn't it?
Is it?
Mr. Holmes, they were the paw prints of a gigantic crocodile.
Your recall is always sharper than mine. I can always rely on that.
GCSE quote.
And there it is, the town of Hay-on-Wye, on this green and grey Welsh Borders Day. Looking to my English eyes, very Welsh, in fact, for it is in Wales, apart from the co-op, which of course is in England. Just found my first conker. It's still a heresy to me not to pick it up from the roadside. Health and safety be damned. Matt and Luke Goss would be proud of me. Let's just hope that back during the pandemic, that virus knew which side of the national line to stay on. It's my 4th visit to Hay-on-Wye. The most recent, as long ago as 1999. Me and my dad came here. I can't remember why. Like a broken fragment of Saxon carving. It's long since chipped and worn away by time. The other 2 times, though, the previous 2, I remember with absolute clarity because there was a distinct purpose to my visits. They were in the summer of 1990 and 91, respectively, at the end of my first and second years at university. Because if you were an English student in those days, as far as I'm concerned, you had to come to Hay to get your summer reading list. Mine was so willfully obscure in the first year, particularly. And I remember the delight when I found Crabbe's The Borough still not reared its head back into the public consciousness, even into the literary public consciousness. The then obscure pre-Alex Kingston version Fanny Hill by John Cleland, and the gargantuan inverted pyramid. I told you I'd get that phrase back in again, Harris. For a moment where I forgot who you were. That's troubling, isn't it?
I also don't remember you mentioning that before.
The inverted pyramid of consciousness.
Oh yes, now that does ring a bell.
Yeah,
yes.
in the Potter film. The inverted pyramid stretching and soaring into the sky that is Richardson's Clarissa, the most frighteningly big book ever made, jaw-droppingly. I've got to read that. So yeah, the first 2 times were purely to a purpose, and in those days it was the internet, wasn't it? Pre-internet, and it's nice that post-internet it's continued with its same identity, and it strikes me that doesn't always happen, does it? The moment Al Jolson opened his mouth in 1927 in The Jazz Singer, the silence crumbled away, didn't they? And the silence never learnt to coexist with the talkies, but the physicality of the book has retained its wonder, hasn't it? And they coexist with the e-book, and I think that's something to be thankful for. Do you think it is just that physicality?
I think that's a huge part of it. Yeah, I think that the tactile side of it with that, and with the comeback of vinyl records.
Yeah,
I think people like to have the thing.
Yes.
I suppose we're acquisitive in that way, but I don't think it's just that. It's
Yeah.
not just the sake of having lots of things. I think the physical contact of it does make the experience more special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally.
And long may it continue.
Just on that idea as well as saying it was the internet.
Yeah.
Would it be nice if there was a town where knowledge resided and say, I'm going to have to go there to find something out.
Cummings World, they could call it, couldn't they?
Well, yeah, but that's an interesting idea. Of course, every town had one, and its library.
Yeah,
and
of course,
we
yes.
were told yesterday, weren't we, that Hayes Library has closed.
Yes, that is a sad thing, yeah. As the son of a librarian, not the son of a preacher man, I am indeed the son of a librarian. That's a particularly galling thing for me. But yes, Cummings Worldly, don't brush it aside, that would be the name for it.
They're just taking down that quote there on the side of the castle. Not really sure what the full quote was.
Yeah, there was more of it yesterday, wasn't there?
Yeah. Did they not realise Cummings-Your-Way was in town?
Well, clearly not, otherwise it would have said something else entirely, wouldn't it? Like, makes me feel like Charlton Heston at the end of Planet of the Apes, or what else do I say?
Something about Belgium.
Yeah, something about Belgium. I would have done it. Right, yeah, so running with that idea, joking aside, I do like that idea of a town in which knowledge resides. And as you say, that was at one time the library. Before that, I suppose...
It's literally been true, I think, historically, hasn't it? You think about places like the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
But also the monasteries.
Yeah, the abbeys and the monasteries and the illuminated manuscripts, those who could read and write, as opposed to those who could not, holding the knowledge, the local knowledge, as something precious to themselves, and the oral tradition before that, the shaman, the elder, etc., who was a repository for that particular group's history, that social group's history, and going back before then, I don't know, to the Greeks, to Socrates.
Well, yeah, there's that sort of idea of Socrates apparently believed that the written word was the end of kind of civilization, because it would destroy our minds, stop us being able to retain information and remember and recite things, which was the way it had largely been done up until that point. And he thought that written language was incredibly dangerous. It just ushered in something different, I suppose, a different mode of existence.
Which is pertinent, isn't it? Because we're about to do that again to ourselves, aren't we? We're at that 2001 monolith moment where
we've had the whole internet age, haven't we? But it's the AI thing that really is going to supercharge this whole thing.
And how do you feel about that?
I think I was telling you at one point, I had a pupil ask me a question in all seriousness. Asked me, if AI is going to be able to do all of these things for us, and do all these functions for us, what's the point in learning anything? Which kind of is one of those questions that stops you in your tracks and makes you realise I'm going to need a couple of hours to adequately answer this. And I've already deviated a million miles away from my lesson plan.
English teacher
But you want to talk about it, and it's a difficult one to answer. But I think it comes down to this idea that if you're taking that line that you don't need to learn anything because of AI, then we are willfully making ourselves more stupid.
Also it presupposes that there is no inherent pleasure in knowledge and in the ownership of knowledge, which of course there is. There is a visceral pleasure, which isn't just a show-offy, I know this. There's something that sits within us, a comfort in knowing. I think there certainly is for me. But where does that end? What's the point of? Because it ends up with what's the point of as you say, learning language in the first place?
Why the ability to do anything? It's like, let's hand it all over to the machine, shall we?
Let's not be potty trained or anything. So, here I am, up on the viewing platform, a splendid viewing platform at Hay Castle, which we've been allowed to film in an act of munificent largesse by the people behind the desk, and I don't say that with any sarcasm, I say that humbly and thankfully.
Allowed for free.
Allowed.
Everyone's allowed it.
Incredible.
But we've been allowed it for free.
Incredible, because we were only talking last night about the difference in how we are perceived as filmmakers in different towns. For instance, in Wolverley, most recently, we seem to be the most interesting people in that very small place. Everyone seemed to want to talk to us about what we were doing. I can think of a black country town, unfortunately, where they just wanted to attack us and hurt us. I'm not saying where that was, it was Bilston. Here, like I say, it was done in the spirit of, this is advertising for us, and so it's extremely refreshing. And it also makes me think about that time, do you remember many years ago in that other town that maybe we really shouldn't say the name of, that time in the museum? Do you remember the time with the clock?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
We were asking to film various things, causing enormous stress to the gentleman.
Consternation.
Yes. And gave that one up as a bad job, didn't we?
As I seem to remember, it was fine to film in the museum, but when we asked, can we film the clock, things went very, very quick downhill. Yeah. So just as John Curle had such a massive impact on Hay-on-Wye, I think most visitors to this place know what an impact bibliophile Richard Booth had on it. Not just an act of munificence or benevolence, an act of transformation. His first bookshop, the Old Fire Station, was opened in 1962. By 1977 it was so synonymous with the idea of books that he was able to pull that stunt on April Fool's Day, declaring himself king of Hay-on-Wye, declaring it a micronation, a separate principality. And by the time I turned up in 1989, there was no other thought in anyone's head with regard to the place. It was where you went for books you could not find elsewhere, where you went for books en masse. And it seems to me sad, perhaps, that doesn't happen more often, that complete transformation, because every aspect of the town has been touched by it. So if you were going to transform a town, to put you on the spot, Lee, where would it be and what would it be? What would you peddle?
I think, I've been to Hay a few times, and the idea of a book town is an interesting one. It makes you want to travel further for the purpose of sort of, browsing books, I think. I can't see why the same idea wouldn't work with vinyl record shops, particularly given its revival.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna plump for Dudley.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to plump for Dudley is just keep seeing statistics about Dudley or facts about Dudley.
Right.
It's the largest town in the country without a railway station, and it's the largest town in the country without a league football team, and so on.
Right, I hadn't thought about that.
So I just think, and it's, as we talked many times about how much potential it has, kind of like town on a hill with various points of real interest, but he's in the doldrums, sort of
down on its luck.
Retail wise and so on, as are many places. But yeah, I'm gonna plump for Dudley.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Being a vinyl record shop town.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And as you were saying earlier, there's that critical mass factor, isn't there, as well? That idea that it might be seen as competition to have two or more things doing the same, peddling the same wares. But in actual fact, if you get enough of it, they start to benefit one another mutually, don't they? Because people then make the journey to that place for that thing. And I think that's something which would be lovely to see spreading.
Indeed. Feature of second-hand bookshops anywhere if you're perusing the fiction section, the literature section, and you're looking at the folios. I used to buy quite a lot of the old Folio Society ones. I've decided not to bother anymore. The shelf space. There's always millions of Anthony Trollope folios.
Yeah, it's
Have you
like
ever read any Anthony Trollope?
no, but
Nor
it's like those box sets of Lost on DVD that you always see in every charity shop.
It's very much like that. But wherever you go, look at the folio section. They'll have a lot of Anthony Trollope.
Yeah.
And they won't have anything of what you want. Or rarely. Just seen a copy of 100 Years of Solitude in another bookshop, the Folio Society edition, for £100.
Yeah.
I could have bought that a few years back for 40, and I didn't.
Yeah, maybe not so expensive after all. Another clock tower town, like Knighton and Brighton and Skegness and Wren's Nest. And because it has a distinct and separate purpose, Hay-on-Wye also has a distinct and separate rhythm, different to a lot of other towns. Almost dual rhythms. We were here last night around 9 o'clock. Not late, but you could hear every footfall in the silence. It was like being in a little French town that existed only in your memory. And yet in daytime, it was reminiscent of so many other British seaside towns, minus the seaside. Holidaymakers defiantly enjoying themselves against the drizzle. And so it continues. Crates being unpacked, books arriving, books changing hands, pages fluttering into the future. Yeah, being here puts me in mind of that fantastic bit of Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveller. I don't know, have you read it?
I haven't. I read Invisible Cities by him, but I haven't yet read that.
An amazing bit where he goes into a bookshop and is sort of assaulted metaphorically by the amassed ranks of books and all of the reasons that he might want to read them. The categories are cumulatively more hilarious. You know, there are books that he's always meant to read and it's now time to get around to doing so. Books that he's pretending to have read and it's now time to actually read them. Books which are upon subjects that he has no interest in, but he has a strange desire to read them anyway, and there's just one after the other, and just when you think you've defeated the last rank of books that you might want to read, there's another one coming at you from a different angle, an angle that might be preposterous or unexpected. It's a great little bit, and just made me think of the nature of reading and of books. And I mean, I wonder how many books there are in this town that I've read, that you've read. How many copies there are that I've got or have had, you know, the same copy with the same cover.
Yeah. I wonder. It's probably dwarfed into insignificance though, next to the amount of books in here in the town that neither of us have read.
Or will ever get the chance to read.
Get the chance, as we were, you know, we've said in the past, there's that idea, how many books do you read on average a year?
Yeah.
How many years can you reasonably expect to live?
Yeah.
And then you can calculate fairly easily how many books you may read in the rest of your life. There is no way of dressing that up as anything other than quite depressing.
No, it's the ball of wool, isn't it? You can't see the ball of wool. You can only see the end of the ball of wool, can't you? You don't know whether there's a big, lovely, plump ball of wool there, or just a couple of little, fragments left. And yeah, it is an inalienably depressing thought, and a sobering thought, because there are thousands of books that I would still like to read. And people again will say, well, will you be bored when you retire? Just that avenue of entertainment, of pleasure, is bigger than it's possible to satisfy. So the answer is no. So do you remember a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, we were still working together, so it was a long time ago, when we compared our favourite short stories, and mine was Shredley Vashtar by Saki, and yours was Borges' Immortals. And we decided that they said more about us than they said about anything else. Mine was squalid.
Well, you pointed that out.
CD,
thought about it.
English, small scale, and yours was enormous and expansive and transcendental and full of wanderlust. And so if I'm ever going to ask the question, I'm going to have to ask it now, what's your favourite novel?
I'm hesitant. I have got a clear winner, but I'm hesitant because it just sounds like the cliched old, let me think of an impressive book that I can say.
Right.
So I quite often don't say it.
Go on.
But it is War and Peace.
Fair enough.
It is, and it's... your next question is going to be why.
Yeah.
So I'll just preempt that.
Go on.
And there's the old quote about Tolstoy, I'm not sure who said it, that Tolstoy's prose is like life writing itself. Which I can only agree with. It does just seem to have the entirety of the human experience in it.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah. Well, once again, it's expanded the views there. So again, mine is small scale, mine probably. It's either Slaves in Solitude or Square by Patrick Hamilton. Close second, stroke third being Coming of Prayer by George Orwell. Again, you know, I can't deny.
All magnificent.
Yeah, but also small scale, localised Englishness again, so guilty as charged.
My second favourite is 100 Years of Solitude.
Yeah.
We were talking, I think, last year, I was saying to you that I was in the bookshop with my partner, and just picking 100 Years of Solitude off the shelf and saying, go to any page, pick any page, read any sentence, it will be utterly fantastic.
Yeah,
and that is the case no matter what you do. Pick it up the shelf.
I feel the same about a lot of Raymond Chandler's work. I feel the same about The Long Goodbye. I feel that I can go and it'll make me laugh, and I'll be entertained. I'll be taken to where he wants me to be, no matter where it is in the story. So although it's not a test for all art, that I do think it applies sometimes. You know.
Slight little thing about mine. All the favourites picked out of mine, they're all in translation.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know whether that kind of has an effect really. Whether would my reaction be the same, better, worse if I was reading them in the original language? Don't know.
No, but again, it points to you as a character, though, doesn't it? It points to someone who wants to go far afield. You know,
maybe so. Yeah.
And physically, whereas I'm happy to stay.
I like that. I really like that English stuff. I hugely do. It's just
Yeah, indeed.
Do you think that's true?
What? Which
World's
bit?
First book town.
I suppose so. I mean, what other contenders are there for it?
I don't actually know. Leiden in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I've heard of that. I don't know when it became designated as such. Well, what would happen, surely? I mean, wouldn't there be some consequence for them claiming it?
I doubt it.
Really?
Well, if I put a big sign up
Yeah.
next to Wensfield High Street saying sausage capital of Northern Europe, who's going to do anything about it?
Oh, can you though, please?
Well, let's do it.
But yeah, absolutely. To me, it's vying with hardened subtopian brutalist for my favourite phrase of the weekend, I think. Sausage capital of Northern Europe.
Yeah.
Wensfield,
Yeah.
sausage capital of Northern Europe.
It's somewhere that the hardened subtopian brutalists like to go
For their
a
sausage.
sandwich.
Yeah,
At
sausage.
the end of a hard day's complaining about Birmingham's brutalist buildings being
Blimey, you're on form. I think I'm going to take my foot off the pedal and let you take it from here, Harris.